Hello, hello. We're back. I'm Nick. I'll be hosting the final session for today called Serving 2.0. I'm based out of Southern. Hello. We're back. I'm Nick. I'll be hosting the final session for today called Sorry, some feedback there. I'm based out of Southern California with my wife and 3 children. I work for Google, driving engineering projects for YouTube. I also work with various global missions organizations, innovating ways that can serve the world. Our world is always evolving, and the information age has left a profound fingerprint on our history. But this past year, due to COVID, the rate of change has been remarkable. We've undergone 10 years of technological evolution in about a year. Not only has the accessibility of information grown dramatically, but so has our connectedness to one another. From heights in internet connectivity to a massive growth in streaming and digital presence across social networks, we are more connected and conversational than ever. We're entering what I call the age of connection, where conversations and communities, good and bad, are being born cross-culturally and without geographic bounds. Some of those connections spark movements, catalyzing a tidal wave of change. With this comes many challenges, from adopting new ways of operating to guarding against divisive ideologies and fake news. On the other hand, a highly connected and collaborative world provides a collective backdrop for social change that just couldn't be possible a few years ago. Not only do ideas and news traverse the globe efficiently, relationships and robust communities are being formed with greater congruence and at a scale like never before. We're no longer hindered by geography, and soon language won't even be a blocker. The only piece that will matter will be the passions that burn deep in our spirit and fuel great people to bring great impact to our world. In this session, we are blessed with some of those great people. They're developing new and innovative communities to serve and impact the world. And without further delay, let's get into our talks. And at the end, we'll do a joint Q&A with all the speakers. So please drop your questions into the chat. And our first speaker is Marc, who is a product design manager at Facebook, creating a new social operating system for virtual and augmented reality at Oculus. Formerly a pastor of innovation leading ministries in Silicon Valley, he is a founding board member of Faith Tech USA, which helps global communities build new technologies in Jesus' name. He currently lives outside Seattle, playing in the mountains with his wife and 2 sons. Marc, you're on.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. We see my slides all right? I think so. Well, I appreciate Passion Talks, and I appreciate being a part of the event again this year. It has been an honor to be selected. So the question I have for you creators of all types, no matter if you're building technology, music, events, or anything else, is, are you creating from the right place emotionally or functionally, and particularly for those thinking about innovation? A lot of people don't understand what innovation is when they ask for it. And so this talk I'm going to give to start off this session, it's a very practical one. It's very hands-on. A lot of the other ones are going to talk about very innovative things. I'm going to talk about more of the how more than the what. We're going to talk about some getting a shared context, putting some shared language, and some shared frameworks around innovation and living in that future state. Myself, I was a musician growing up. I did a lot of startups, and as Nick mentioned, I was a pastor of innovation at a church for a while. Funny but fun title. I've enjoyed that season. Right now, I'm at Oculus working on things like metaverse and some very interesting long-term topics. I also serve on the board, as Nick mentioned, at Faith Tech, where we're always constantly building and dreaming of a future state for the church and other things. And as you see here, I just love being in the mountains and exploring and getting lost out in the woods. But my North Star across everything is helping creators create. So this is my passion. So my passion talk is anybody building things is helping them get that thing in the world. So today I want to talk about these 3 things. I want to talk about the stress of creation. It's a stressful thing bringing something into the world. I want to unpack that a little bit. And then we'll talk about maintaining that shared context. This is what I was talking about, shared frameworks, shared language. And then I want to discuss how to guide others through that change, through this context and framework. Okay, so let's jump in. So first, the stress of creation. So we want to balance this for peak performance. And peak performance is hard, but let me start from here. There's two basic methods of design: on map and off map. This is a really fun painting from an artist in 1902. He painted a depiction of opera goers leaving the opera in the year 2000. It was 20 years ago. But it's a sort of depiction of the future of what innovation was. And when people ask for innovation, they're not always sure what they're asking for, but it's a depiction of the future. And so we're always asking for the future, and we're drawn towards it. We're trying to imagine it. And we have this tug and this insight that we want to be pulled towards. And any innovator, whether who's doing creative effort, we have this vision of the thing. But one statement that's kind of helpful for those is like, you do need that North Star, but just know that like nobody's actually touched the North Star. It's good to keep this in mind. Do have it, get clarity on it, but do understand too that it's going to evolve and change. There's a concept that is super important. Obviously, I had it in the title here, and this is this concept of eustress. Eustress is a very important term for you to know and understand as a creator. Eustress is kind of this middle ground between complete relaxation, calm, not caring at all. If you're in that state, it's kind of dangerous. You're bored. You're not seeing any improvement. In fact, if you're like this lady in the picture here, like you could get yourself hurt. Whereas on the other extreme, if you're in distress and fatigue, exhaustion, let's imagine you're a weightlifter, you got the barbell on your neck. You're in distress, you're going to get yourself hurt. If you're a creator who's doing too much, you're going to need rescue. So there's this middle ground here called eustress. It's very important to recognize that when you're feeling stressed and stretched, it's not always bad. You should be energized and focused. There's these flow states that shouldn't just always necessarily be easy. You should feel that tension. There's a phrase I like to use with my kids and with other performers and creators. Like I shared earlier, I grew up as a musician and I like to use this phrase a lot, that your nerves just mean you care. I'm not a speaker, so doing this makes me very nervous. I have a lot of nerves doing this right now, but like, I love this topic. And so I keep telling myself like, that's all right. I really like this topic. And, it just means I care. This is a really important thing to embrace when you think about eustress. That stress when you're making a thing, recognize it, embrace it. Okay. I like to start there with this topic because creation involves a lot of that stress. So knowing that, one of the things that causes that stress is being in the wrong context. What I mean by this is if somebody asks you to innovate, but really all they want you to do is kind of fix the thing they already have, you're about to be very stressful or be very stressed because you're trying to do the wrong thing. So if I were teaching a class, this is where I'd say, get out your notepads. We're gonna, learn some things here. So as any good lesson, we've got 3 areas with 3 concepts each. These are sort of the things to know. Since this is a pretty short presentation, this is gonna be fast. I don't have time to go deep, but here's sort of the overall big picture. In any change management, there's 3 basic areas. One is the persons involved, the initiatives, and then the time frames that they're on. It's important to know where you are in all 3 of these. I'm going to unpack these a little slowly here. First, the persons. This is both for you as the creator and also the people that you're serving. So there's 3 categories here. I'll unpack these again as we go, but I call the 3 categories the keeper, the lookout, and the scout. Just wait, I'll unpack more. Like, this could be its own presentation on its own with the personas. Second is the initiatives. These are the products, the services, the pursuits, whatever you pursue with your limited resources. I call it initiatives because it could be your worship service. It's fine. 3 categories here. It's known, it's kind of known, or completely unknown. I don't know what it is. So it kind of falls in one of those categories. Then you have your timelines. These are the horizons which something is to be done. It's either in the near term, somewhere in the middle, or it's a long-term thing, right? High-level introduction. Let's start to roll these things together with some scenarios. So if we talk about horizon one, let's look at your near-term stuff. We start thinking about this person's of the keeper, right? So this keeper is, they're interested in something that's already built, right? Their job is to maintain it, do incremental changes and fixes. Let's think about like historical landmarks. This is a known thing. Let's keep it going. An example might be, your existing revenue product, it works. Let's find cost optimizations. Things aren't changing here. You just want to optimize it. And if we think about our faith, scriptures, they're not changing. They're kind of in horizon one. Like, this is what it is. It's not really going to change. Just to give a hat tip to Dave Rayleigh, the last talk in the session, he's going to talk about experts. So when Dave's talking about experts, he's talking about folks here in horizon one. They have the knowledge in this area. They're experts. So plug for him. So horizon two, moving on, this is the secondary. It's kind of this middle ground. They kind of are aware of what is, but also on the lookout for, what's out there. It's kind of partially known. An example here would be, actually, we all just lived through it. Back to sort of the faith worlds, look at church. We went to physical church. Physical church was not an option anymore. What did churches do? They took their existing service and put it online. That wasn't a horizon three. That was just like, kind of maybe something new, but not really. It's just here kind of on the edge, right? Another example of a horizon two might be like a grocery store delivery. It exists. It's here, grocery stores down the road. We want to do something different, innovative. Let's deliver, right? So we'll kind of do something in between. In horizon three, this is our scout, the innovators, the early adopters. These are ones who are looking for risk, startups, 0 to 1 initiatives, like find something new and different. And again, tying it through your faith, like this is kind of where we all are. We left Garden of Eden. We are all in a culture that's always changing. We have a mandate here. Again, that itself is a talk on its own. But if I were to kind of compile, this is kind of the money side. If you ever had a coffee with me in a cafe, I've probably drawn this on a napkin, for you. So if you were to, put your personas and your initiatives on a vertical and horizon, and horizontal, you kind of see these horizons mapped out, right? You kind of got this nice visual where you can kind of imagine, oh, okay, I can kind of see the stuff I'm working on and what it might be. Okay, that's a bunch, but it's a lot of boxes and words. So cool, great, Mark. That's kind of fun and interesting. But what does that mean? Like, I want to do things in the world, but like, how do I work through my projects? So again, when I talked about the on map, off map, you're always going somewhere. You are somewhere. So I like to talk about the difference between a GPS coordinate and a compass, right? GPS tells you exactly where you are. A compass means, I don't know, it's this direction. So again, that on map, off map type thing. So with that horizon exercise, you could do something like this, where you look at everything you're working on and do a project distribution. Look at everything you're doing, throw it on a scatter plot and say, oh, I see most everything we're doing actually does fall kind of within this horizon one or horizon two. We're not doing too much over here. And there's some resource management we need to do here. And it's really important to map this. And I'll get to in a bit later, like it takes an expense to do lots of, horizon three type effort. And if you ignore your horizon one, it's going to crumble. It's going to fall apart. You have to maintain that too. Any single initiative is going to follow sort of this phase, right? You're going to start with like a crazy idea. I don't know, what should we do? It's a baby thing. It might stop there, right? The thing I wanted to do, maybe it's a bad idea. Maybe it stops there. It doesn't move on to horizon two. But if it does, it's going to kind of follow this curve. This is a great topic you can look up around S curves. If you get multiple S curves, likely they're going to overlap each other. And so you can kind of start to visualize when you see these H1s and H3s kind of overlap each other, like, oh, when you're really maintaining one of the things you did, for example, when the church was just maintaining what they're doing, this is a time to really think about something completely different, right? There's another talk all on its own. But just an example of this in the S curves that was actually out there in the market, it was here, so we have the PCs, we had our desktop and laptop PCs. They kind of were nascent and then came online, and they didn't change much after a while. They're still pretty much the same. And then the mobile industry was completely different, you know, from the flip phones to what we have now. And now if you look at the cell phone market, Androids and iOS, they all kind of feel and look the same, basically hit maturity. So what's next? Selfishly, I don't know, maybe AR, VR. So practically, to try to put some meat to this thing, and as we were thinking about what the next sessions are going to talk about, if you start to contextualize these various horizons, how do I work on these projects? How do I think about what do I do? There's a lot here, but you think about like, how am I measuring these things? If you think about your horizon 1, think about the stuff that exists. Your metric is like the tangible, measurable improvements, your incremental improvements, right? Your increased revenues that you can just get a little bit out of. And so the resources and these resources that I have listed here do tend to skew towards technical development things. There's lots of other things we could do towards music or events or other things, but for my technical friends, you know, we can categorize things this way, right? So in Horizons 1, you just got to get the things done, right? So Kanban type things are great for here. Get it on the thing, prioritize it, move it through, let's go, right? And so this is where these are great tools for that type of thing. Versus in the Horizon 2, you really just need the timeline. What is the expectations for this thing? How do we set it up? Do we have the resources for these timelines? Let's get our product requirement docs. Let's set up sort of the cycles, and we just got to do it. The Horizon 2 personas, this is where I was talking about, be a whole presentation on itself. This is a very important persona for change management because they do have to dip into Horizon 3 and 1 a lot. And so they have to manage a lot of things going on. And then the Horizon 3, it's very, very different than 1 or 2. The metrics here is not a fixed unit, whereas the metric for 1 and 2 is some type of fixed unit, like a thing that you know is going to be delivered. The third one, I don't know what it is, right? So this is where you get into sort of that lean startup, like the rapid experimentation. I have here rapid prototyping, that type of thing. And so you're just gonna be looking at your experimentation, right? And so this is where those methods are appropriate. It's not appropriate for your things that already exist in the world, right? So this is just a practical way to apply these horizons. So my question is, how are you creating? How are you feeling? Is it stressful? Are you in that eustress? You shouldn't fall in distress, and you will get there if you're using the wrong tools, if you're feeling the wrong state. So to wrap it up, you know, 1, embrace that eustress, own it. Number 2, know your context, try to apply these principles. They're super duper helpful. Unpack that, happy to talk with it through you. And use the right tool for the right horizon. This is where people get tripped up. This is where your stress is going to come from, is when you're using the wrong tool in the wrong horizon. So like I said, this is a very practical talk. There's going to be a lot of ways to apply this through the next couple talks. And so maybe at the end, we can kind of look at this framework and apply it to some of these very inspirational talks that are about to come next. So thanks for the time. I appreciate it. And so from there, back to you, Nick.
Thank you, Mark. That was awesome. Such a useful framework to think things through. It would have been so useful to have this before COVID, but really, I guess.